So, good evening, everyone. I'm Samuel Okolo. Uh, I'll be your instructor this evening on this webinar, live webinar. I want to believe you can all hear me well, please. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me clearly. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. So, on a very quick note, I would like us to go straight to the point why we are here. We are here because I believe we are all testers or testers in view. You know, the society today cannot really work, especially the tech team. Before now, the tech team has been working without actually testing their applications. That was the early age of um, web development. So many things were not really put in place. You just design website and the users test it for you and give you feedback. Then you go back, rebuild, and then test again. So something like that. But as time goes on, requirements begins to grow and applications begins to come up. More complex application comes up, and we find out that it's no longer the right way or the right thing that your users will be the one to test your application and give you feedback. Yeah, though it happens, but we should be able to reduce the errors or the bugs to the barest minimum, right? So that when we are shipping our products, users should have less bugs that they have to report back to us, and that actually gives birth to software quality assurance. So the in-house has to start testing the applications, and that is actually why we are here. We are here because we either want to grow in our knowledge of software quality assurance, or we want to become software quality assurance. And I've come up with 12 weeks curriculum on this that is exclusively free, right? There's no payment whatsoever behind the scene or whatsoever. So we're going to be having this program consistently for the next 12 weeks, every weekend, either Saturdays or Sundays, but it's going to be consistent, God willing, for the next 12 weeks. My aim is that at the end of these 12 weeks, you should be able to say that you're a QA engineer. That is my aim. That is my purpose. And so God help me. And I also need your encouragement by being here on time. When we say it's going to be 4, let it be 4. If it's going to be 3, let it be 3. If it's going to be 5, but I think for now we're choosing 4. So by 4, all of us should be here. The community, we can grow actually more. That is my aim. So let me share my screen so that we can just dive straight into the topic of the day without much theories. Share my screen. So let me know if you can see my screen. Good. So today is the beginning of the webinar, and what we'll do today is more of theory. Why are we actually here? Last week I worked on test case, though which I just needed us to do something. So if you look at the curriculum, the 12-week curriculum, it started actually today with this, what we are having here today. And I sat down, prepared that curriculum. Everything we'll be doing will be based on that curriculum. We'll not actually go outside that curriculum. So when we now finish that 12-week curriculum, we'll now migrate to pros. That is when we'll now be doing more advanced automation and more advanced courses, right? So, and I believe that this is the first and if not the only theory course we are going to be having. Others are going to be more practicals, where we'll be doing either manual testing, Postman work, automation, and as we move on, we'll be upgrading. So the first we have to know today, or we have to learn, is what does QA actually entails. Why is this course important today? A lot of persons who are joining QA are joining QA because they feel that I actually want to join tech, but I don't want to be a programmer, in quote, right? Some persons feel that, okay, I don't want to write technical, I don't want just want to write heavy code. So which area should I join that will make me not to be writing code, It is a wrong notion that as a QA, you are not going to be writing code. That is very, very wrong. And I've had a lot of conversation with so many persons, so many managers who feels that QA is not where you write code. And that is wrong. So that is the reason I am bringing this topic here, so that every one of us who are coming into this community should understand what we are in for. You understand? This is not just about coming here, learning to test, doing manual testing, and then that is the end of QA. No, QA is more than that. So what QA entails, what is your work as a QA? What are you expecting to do? Now, as a QA engineer, what is expected of you is to ensure that the the application that the dev team are going to be shipping out has, how do I put it now, less bug. The bug has been reduced to the barest minimum. It's actually, so when the developers are shipping at the application, you should have tested it and then giving your approval as a QA that this application or this section, this sprint that we have worked on the work we have done on this sprint is actually ready to move to production. If you do not give that approval, that code is not going to go to production. So that is where QA becomes very, very important in every company. So what the dev team they do is that they write their code. Of course, they do a lot of unit testing, yes. And after that, they ship it to their dev environment. Now, from their dev environment, it should be moved. This is actually how it works in normal organization. From dev environment, it moves to staging. Staging now is for the tester. That is where you come in. Now, at staging, you will be told to go and test. We have different rules of testing, which we are going to treat as we move on. Now, you now do it. Those who are testing manually should test manually, and those who are testing, who are going to write automation, we now have to write automation based on that application or that section of code that has been pushed to staging. Now, after your automation or your manual testing, everything has been or is working as expected. That is when you now give approval to the DevOps team or whosoever that is going to push that code to production. Now, the fact is that if QA is not there, what actually happens? The importance of QA cannot be overemphasized. That's the honest truth. Because if QA is not there, what is going to happen is that the dev team will write their code, and then the code is working in their local environment, and then they'll just push it and say, the code is working. And at the end of the day, when this code actually goes to production, you see errors everywhere. I've had series of issues where I am having bug in my own environment, but the dev team is not having bug. And they were like, Sam, where are you getting this bug from? I'm not having bug. I said, yes, that is why I'm the QA. So mostly what I do is that I I inspect the bug, I inspect that, pick where that issue is coming from, then do one-on-one meeting with whosoever that wrote that code, help that person to actually see where the issue is coming from. This is our work as a QA, nothing more. Not to, as a lot of persons have it, that QA are kind of enemies of developers. The honest truth is that when you know your onion, you are going to be friends of developers. That's the honest truth. You let them know that you are actually here to help them and not to fight with them. You are actually here to make them be able to push their code to production, a code that is functional. Now, the funny part about this whole thing is that when an app is working, it is the developer that is remembered, not the tester. But a good app, if a well-functioning app cannot work without the help of a tester. That is the honest truth. So these are the things you should be able to let the developer see. I'm here to actually assist you, to make you actually look brighter on the outside world. People are not going to be remembering the tester, when the app is working perfectly fine. But without the tester, the app is not actually going to, in quote though, the app is going to have a lot of bugs. So this is what QA entails. We are there to help the developers push a more functional and usable code. Users are going to code that users are going to use, and then they enjoy using that application. That is why we are there, right? So let's go to the next one. Please, if you have any question, you can use the chat. I actually mute by default. I muted everybody so that we will I don't want kind of what do you call it now? I don't want distractions why I am communicating. So let's use the chat if you have any question. So the second, what QA is and why it's important. Like I said earlier, QA ensures software works as intended. Without QA, the software will rely on end users before we get errors. And the honest truth is that companies are not going to like that. Before now, yes, it's fine. But currently, where everybody is expecting so much from everybody. So if you are coming out, you want to build a software, you want to come up with something, users are no longer ready to do your job for you. Go get a QA, for crying out loud. Why should your software be having bugs? Let me take for instance, a bank comes to you that you should use the application, and then you want to make transfer. Just as your money is about to debit to pull out, or as you click send, you are seeing internal server error. For crying out loud, most people don't even know what this error is. And then this is consistent. It's not as if it's just a network issue, a network glitch that just happened within short period of time, which is normal. But this is just consistent for day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Everybody's money is going and it's not getting to the receiver. It's moving from the sender, it's not getting to the receiver. The bank is going to shut down. So without the tester, end users will not be able to use their software currently and enjoy it. So that is where actually the tester comes in. Then the second is to prevent bugs before they reach the end user. This is all I've also been saying. We are here to prevent bugs before the end user gets to the application, start using the application. And how do we do this? I've explained it earlier. Once the dev team writes their code, they move it from their own dev environment, because normally every company have their dev environment, and then for companies that have testers, they have staging environment and then production environment. And most companies where you don't see testers are actually startups, who have not actually started using, who have not pushed their production their softwares to production. Mostly, I want to use that mostly. And most startups who eventually start pushing their application to production and users start using their application, honest truth is that you just see them running for testers. They need testers, and this is actually why testers are in high demand today. That is the honest truth. Testers are in high demand in the market. Why? Because every company wants their product to be tested before it goes out to production. They don't want users to be the one bringing errors, because at the end of the day, most users are going to just go away. So why should users be the one bringing errors for us? So the second point is that it prevents bug before they reach to users. And the third one is it builds users trust and product reliability. That is the fact. That is one of the major reasons you are important in that company. When you are doing your job as a QA and you are releasing bugs, of course, when you are releasing bug, there's going to be this regression. You test and there are issues in the code. You return back to the developer, they fix it, and then you test again. What is happening is that at the end of the day, what will be shipped to the outside world will be so good that users are going to have trust using that software. We are not going to take away the fact that there's going to be bug outside. Yeah, but it will be reduced to the barest minimum. That is actually the aim of every company. Let the bugs be reduced to the barest minimum. Not that when we launch this section of the app and then all hell get loose, kind of, they'll be fire on the mountain. Everybody will start calling, this section is not working, this is not working, and all that. So that is actually what happened. So when a tester who knows his job or her job is in the company, what you are doing is that you are helping the users of that software, your company software, to build more trust, to build more faith in your company by actually using your application. Why? Because you are doing your job extremely well. Different roles in QA. Now, this is a kind of more dicey. Like I said, okay, somebody is dropping a question. Yeah, so once I finish the anyone, before I move to the next one, I can drop your question so that we can go back to it. And as the only QA just employed in a cross-functional ERP company that has no documentation whatsoever, no user stories, no prior test cases, what should a tester do first? Good question. Now let's handle it one after the other. We have second two questions there or three. So let's handle the first question. Now, your first question is, what should you do when you come in? There's no documentation. There's no, yes, you are the first QA that is just coming in. What you should do is to liaise with your CTO or your product manager. But I am saying that there's also and a misunderstanding with the product manager. So that you need a proper documentation for the APIs. Now, what I do, this works for me very, very importantly. When I enter a startup and I am the first QA that comes in there, I speak with the CTO. Please give me access to your APIs. It depends on what you are asked to test first. If you are asked to test a UI, you have to let them know that you need to understand how their API works. It's very, very important. Because if I don't understand how the API works, I literally will be having issues understanding the functionality of the UI. Because the front end will be calling the API endpoints. So I need to understand how the API works. So the first thing I do is that I get onboarded on the APIs. It's actually the first thing that I do. So you are coming in as a first QA. Let them onboard you on the application APIs. Get to understand the APIs, and then from there you should be able to know how the system works very well. Which I want to believe that you should have done that. Now, what you can now do is perhaps since there's no documentation and there's no test case, whatever, you can now write your documentation and your test cases based on that, whatsoever you have. But my fear is that you might not have that time. I don't know if they will give you that time frame, because this also is a very big challenge that testers do have: time. Most companies, they put emphasis on developers developing the code, and they don't emphasize on testers. And it is a very big issue in a QA. Is one of the problems that we have, that maybe one day we are going to set aside and discuss this issue, because it's a big issue that day is not everybody will just communicate. So is a problem that I face. I have faced it, and how I deal with it is that I insist that in this sprint, some companies do their sprint weekly. I've worked in a company where sprint is weekly. I've also worked in a company where sprint is 2 weeks. So, but nonetheless, I make sure, for crying out loud, I was employed. I did I did not, how do I put it? I was employed to do a job, and I should be recognized in the team. I don't know if you're getting it. So you did not pick me from the streets. You brought me in here to join this team to make sure that whatever this team is pushing out is good. So I should be able to do my job. If you don't factor me in into the team, then I am irrelevant. I should be able to let the CTO know that, or the product manager, whoever. You get. So if your sprint is 2 weeks, what I usually do is that you will hear them run this. Okay, 2 weeks. Our 2 week sprint is starting on Monday to end upper week Friday, and then the tester will now test and sharp by Friday. By that Friday, I want you will always hear these stories. I want this thing go to production. It will end. And how are you want it to go to production upper Friday, and you are saying that sprint is ending that same Friday? How are you going to perform the magic? Where is it coming from? So I will always make this known. I always make myself known. It's not possible. And I don't need to argue with anybody. I will just present it in a very simple, humble way that you are forgetting that this application has to be tested. And usually I will remind you that we've been having regressions in our testing. Yes, then they will counter you. No, 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 no. The reason we're having this meeting, I am having this meeting, I'm talking to the dev team. I don't want anybody to build an application that the tester will test and say failed. Did you all hear me? All of them will say yes. My dear, they will see build and it will fail. It's normal. We see it every day. They will build the application, it will still fail. You understand? So it's not your making, for crying out loud. You are here to do your job. And if the application is not, you are not seeing anything. eh, the fact is that if the dev team begin to build an application that you as a tester, you no longer see any bug, it means literally, in quotes, your days in that company are numbered. That is the honest truth. Your days are numbered, because what that invariably means is that you are no longer needed. But I doubt if that ever happens, because this is code we are talking about. Are you getting it? There will always be issue. So, in as much as they argue, I will always say, I'm sorry, but then we must factor in a period of testing. We cannot, the sprint cannot end on Friday and you want this code, or on Thursday and you want this code pushed to production on Friday. It's not possible. Sprint should end on Wednesday or Tuesday. Developers, let's try. Sprint should end upper week Tuesday or upper week Wednesday. Then the tester can now do their testing. I should be able to write my automation, or if I'm doing manual testing, I should be able to do my manual testing. And then, there will be this regression. Then we give room for regression. We give room for developers, testers meeting developers. From that Tuesday, sprint ends on Tuesday. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we should be able to do something, do the magic, and then push to production. If I don't convince the CTO or the product manager to do it, my dear, they will not do it. And once they don't do it, I will begin to have problem. Because once on Friday comes and I bring out bugs, I will become the enemy of everybody. It is what it is. You understand? So during the planning, I always make myself known. There should be time for testing. In as much as they say no, I will let them know that you are saying no is detrimental. It's not going to be healthy for the developers. It's not going to be healthy for you. It's not going to be healthy for me. So even the developers will put mouth and say, like, let's give time for the tester to test. Secondly, how do you handle stubborn and arrogant developers? and product managers that always want to argue on bugs that are obvious. Now, I wouldn't want us to use that word arrogant. Just trying to, everybody is trying to save their ass. Now, let me tell you why I don't feel they're arrogant. I feel that they are also afraid of losing their job by the virtue of you bringing out bugs. But this thing, I've seen this thing happens every time. That is where our own professionalism comes in. They are afraid that when you show them bugs, I have someone who has dropped. Okay, I will answer your question. They look at their mindset. Their mindset is that when you drop a bug from their code, they feel that you are trying to tell them that they are not good enough. But that is not true. They feel that inferiority complex kind of creeps in, that this guy, I'm not good. Management will not be seeing it that I'm not good enough. But that is not true. I try to convince them that you are a professional. That is why you are here. And I'm not here to prove a point that you are not good enough. Rather, I'm here to make you to give the world a better version of you. I'm here to ship to ship your code to the outside world that they will be proud of. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm not here to fight you. Rather, I'm here to assist you. And so you should also see me. We are in one team. We can't fight. I do this. I'm not just telling you something I don't do. Maybe someone will say it's easier said than done. But my dear, what you are experiencing, I want to believe that virtually every tester here is who is already in the field experience this. And I, for one, I do experience it. And this is how I handle it. I give my developers that sense of pride in them. I let them know that you are good. You are just good. You are an expert. But the fact is that I am here in your team to make sure that what you are shipping to the outside world is better than you expected. Now, another point of argument that I give them is that if, because I don't want to make you feel bad, and I see a bug in your code, and then I keep quiet, the fact is that that bug is there. Whether you saw it when you are building the code or you did not see it, for the fact that I, as a tester, have seen that bug, and maybe for one reason or the other, I keep quiet, my dear, that bug is there. If I don't raise alarm, the users will raise alarm for it. That is the honest truth. Someone, somehow, whether by hook or by crook, will raise alarm over that bug. And it will be worse if users raise alarm on this bug. Literally, what that now means is that users are not going to come the way I am coming. They are going to come to the management that your application is useless. Your application is bad. This application is not working. At that time, management, out of frustration, will narrow it down to who wrote that code. And then management will fault you that you don't know what you are doing. So it is better I address it inwardly here. We cover our shame within before it goes outside. So when I talk to them, in all humility, and they understand, and I let them know that, see, we can't fight over this. I'm not here for us to fight. I'm not here to make you feel bad or to bring out the inferiority complex. No, I'm actually here to bring out a better version of you. So that, sometimes all we needed in life is someone to just tap on our shoulder and tell us, hey, you are doing good. That's just it. And as a QA, do it to them. Just tap on their shoulder. Tell them you are doing great. All I'm just here to do is to make sure that this code you are writing goes out to the outside world, and the they give you the praise that you deserve. Nobody will remember the tester when they are praising you, when they are giving you the praise. You understand? So that is how I handle that. So because of that, I literally don't see them as arrogant. I see them as they are kind of afraid that that their job is at stake. But the honest truth is that their job is never at stake. If their job is at stake, the management would not have brought you in. Hope I'm communicating. I hope I'm making sense. Is testing estimation time not included in the naturally? There's this norm in every sprint to kind of sideline the testers. So, but you have to let them know that testers cannot be sidelined. That is why I'm here. When they finish, they plan. Just raise your hand gently. You are forgetting something. Oh, we have to test. No. Yes, now before you're not going to test. You should test now, but sprint should end on Friday, and I want this thing on production on Friday. Tester dot test. How can you give developers 2 weeks and you are giving testers 0 week or 0 time, 0 day? It's not possible. I need time to be able to test. And then, if there's a bug, when are we going to do the forth and back? So, it's your duty to give them, let them know that the time has to be added to that sprint. Else, whatsoever happens, you will not be blamed. So now, let me tell you what eventually happens. If at the end of the day, the CTO or the product manager or whoever, normally the CTO, refuses, which is in rare case, very rare case, once you've been able to present your case properly and the CTO refuses, no, this sprint has to go on Friday, developers end this work on Friday, and DevOps make sure that code is pushed on Friday. What will happen is that developers will reach out, they will push that code to the dev ANV on Friday or maybe on Thursday, right? And then you pick it up that Friday. You do your work. Now, when you find out bug, which I know somehow you are most likely going to find out, it is not your making. You don't have to say no. You don't have to keep quiet because you are getting salary. You are employed to do this job. So whether the CTO accepts put you in the time frame or not does not stop you from doing your job. You still do your job. Okay, there's a bug. I find bug. I have to reach out to the dev. How are we going to do it now? I don't know. And then normally what happens is that you reach out to the dev, the developer, and he now finds out that true there's a bug. What is going to happen is that only the developer will use his mouth to shift time. That's in the next stand-up. I don't know, most companies do their stand-up once a week, some every day. In the next stand-up, you see, let's assume that you are working in a company where stand-up happens every day. For those companies who do their stand-up every day, usually 15 minutes, because it's every day, so everybody can do their work. What are you working on? No elaborated story. 15 minutes to 30 minutes, stand-up is over. You see the developer will tell you that the tester brought out a bug on this thing, on this feature, so I'm actually working on it. The CTO will now like, why now? It's not, it was working in my own side. Everybody will bust laugh. It was working on my side, but the tester tested it. The tester again. Sometimes when I when I reach out to my CTO will call me somewhere. Bug again. Bug again. We just laugh over it. So it's normal. This is where you are here. So if the developer will be the one to shift time for you, there's nothing you can do. So you literally just don't have to kill yourself or fight anybody over it. But it happens in rare cases. Normally, once you're able to present your case well, they will put that time. So what they do normally is, normally if it's going to be 2 weeks, okay, now our sprint is 2 weeks. It shouldn't cross that 2 weeks. So developers, please try your best. Deliver, deliver this section, deliver this thing on Tuesday upper week, so that we will now have from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for testing to go on. Right. So you should make them to put that time. That they don't put it is not their fault. It is somehow how they are structured, kind of. Do you know the fact that most CTOs are afraid of testers? That is the honest truth. They're afraid, not they're afraid literally, they're afraid in quotes. How? Why? Because their fear is that the testers kind of slow down their 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 sprints. But then, yeah, so they're afraid of that. They don't want to, they just like, God, I wish there's don't just tester in this company. But then you need the tester because you apply that the tester has to come to the company. But that fear is there. So you should not see their negativity in a negative angle. See it in an angle that they are just trying to be fast with their sprint. I don't know if I'm making sense, please. Thank you. So, I have another, someone else is asking, how do we clearly differentiate how do we clearly differentiate out personal preference from bugs? Sometimes you can clearly tell this is not a bug, but this would impact user experience. How would you go about it? Wow, that is more on product. So when you differentiate something that is not a bug, but is a product deficiency, you have to meet at this time the product manager. You literally don't have to deal with your CTO or your team lead, right? Sometimes companies have their different management. You have the team lead, product manager, the CTO, and all that. So that is the work of the product manager. Product related issues. So when you see that this thing as a QA, this thing is not a bug, but it is product related, it's product deficiency, then you should reach out to the product manager and discuss with him or her that this is what I am noticing, and I applied this application in this manner and it gave me this result. And for the fact that they gave me this kind of results, I am afraid that users are going to have issues like this and like this and later. He might not ask you, okay, what solution are you bringing to the table? Of course, before you go up, you should have a solution, right? So literally, this is how I handle it, because I've handled issues like this in my company when I was working with Turing. I at the time I was added to the at the time I was added to the product team. Why? Because of the way I was suggesting, improvement on the product. So the manager was like, our head manager was like, wow, Samuel, you are just good. You have an eye for products, So let me also add you to the product team, So I was added to that product team. So product has a different way of approaching it than bug. For bug related issue, I deal with the developers directly or the CTO, depending on how the company is structured, how I am allowed to deal with them. For product related issues, I deal with the product persons, those involved with product, and they will listen because that is why they are there. So Farouk, I don't know if I've been able to answer your questions. So they are two different things entirely. Product deficiency is different from product, from bugs. So, and you should be able to deal with them separately. The people you should be meeting are different people entirely. I don't have anything to do with developers when I have product issue. What is developer going to do with me? So it is the product heads I should be meeting, right? Okay, so I think I've been able to answer these questions. So we can now go to the next one. different roles in QA. So we have actually different roles in QA. Below are the most common roles in QA. There are other roles, but why I'm bringing out these three are every other role kind of falling between these rules, right? So we have the manual testers, which usually are where the beginner starts from. So most people who say, okay, I don't want to write any code at all, I just want to be a tester, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to be involved with code writing. They come here, but then you have to grow, you have to upscale. Because the fact is that there's one funny thing about tech. Tech is not like other office work, like admin and where you just go to office, right? Do file thing, sit down, submit file, and all that, and go home. Tech is not like that. In tech, you upscale your knowledge. The moment you stop growing, just know that your job is at stake. That is one fact on tech. You keep growing, you keep learning, you know. Things stack keep coming in and you keep learning new stacks. You just keep upscaling. Once you stop growing, just know that it's time for you to retire. So normally you start with this manual testing, and all you just need to do is to test manually. There's something I still need to let you know. Most developers do test manually too, though they do simulations, right? So all you now need to do is for manual testers, you use your live gadgets. Developers still do that. So virtually most of the things you'll be testing, they've tested it, right? The difference now with manual tester and developers is that you prepare your test cases, and then if your company is using iOS and Android and web, you will now be testing on these three regions, these three different web app application: the iOS app, the Android app, the web. Now the web developer will only test on his own section, which is the web. The iOS will test only on iOS. While the Android will test only on Android. But you as a tester, you're going to test around on all of them manually. So you just do your manual testing. Then, of course, you don't just test and say, I found bug there. No, you write your cases. That is where test case comes in. Now, before this test case, there's what we call the test plan. In our next section, we'll handle key QA concepts. That is, so you have your test plan, you have your test case, test scenario, and all that. So all of these factors in your manual testing. Then we have automation testers. Then we have performance testers. Now, this automation testing, I believe that we all know what it is. In this section now, you have to start writing code. Now, the funniest part again too is that if you are a manual tester, in upscaling, you now have to start writing scripts in Postman. You can also automate on Postman, right? So in upscaling, you learn how to automate your Postman. Now, if you now want to scale higher, you can now learn how to test APIs with Cypress. You can learn how to test API with Playwright. So that is where automation testers come in. And then for UI testing, oh wow, these tools are fantastic. Selenium is there. We have Cypress. Then you have Playwright. These three are there are other ones, but these are the major three that are in the market, and they are free tools for you to use. So you use them to automate, to test your UI. And the good thing is that when you write the automation, all of these click normally that you'll be clicking on the app, these automation they will just be doing all that click, for you, and assume that it will just be as if users are naturally using them, right? So with that, once there's an error, it will trigger immediately. Okay, so I have a question. Then before I get to that question, let me finish. Now, performance testing is actually carrying out is a kind of testing that you do to check the performance of that application. For example, how many users how strong is how many users are going to be able to log in into our application before it breaks per time. So this is where performance testing comes in. How many users are going to be calling our social endpoint before it breaks at social time? So we want to check the performance of this section. Every section, you are checking their performance. How many users? At what stage is this application going to break? At what stage is what? How long will it carry? Now, when you are able to do this performance testing before users start it, then you will not be able to know, oh, our database can carry up to, or system can carry up to 1 million before it start lagging, before it start breaking. It can carry up to 5 million before it start breaking. Now, if, for example, your application is built, or your management is expecting like 5 million, they have massive markets, and they're expecting like 5 million users, at so range of time, then what they will just do is to upscale their system, because now the performance tester have carried out performance testing, and he has told them that at this moment what we have cannot carry 5 million users, it can only carry 1 million users. So this is where performance testing comes in. So let me look at the question that we have. Does it mean we only write test case as a manual tester and we don't as automation tester? How? That's a very dicey question. If you write test case as an automation tester, how do you remember the word automation? It defeats. We don't have anything to do with manual, right? So what really happens in automation? No, you don't. Because what happens in automation is that when you write your script, you generate a report. That report serves as your test case. I don't know if I'm making sense. Because if I have to write reports after every automation, right? It will kind of defeat that purpose of automation. If I have to go to manual test case and then say, okay, the login, check if the page is able to load. Did it load? I now go and put it. Yes, it loaded. That will be another manual. And remember, automation is very fast. Before you even blink, it has done several automations for you and closed, pass, gone. If it fail, it will show you the element that is not clickable, that it was not able to click, and where the error is coming from. So you can now go and manage it and see whether it's coming from your own code or from the dev team, right? So literally, you don't write manual test case for automation. Yeah. So your question is, yes. So in answering your question exclusively as it is, writing test cases is for manual purposes. You write a code. In your code, what you do is that you get your test results, right? So usually in HTML format. So after the test is done, I think for those who were with me on last weekend, we did that now. After I ran the test, I clicked on a link that actually showed the test result, everything on HTML format. So that actually now serves as your test case. I don't know if I've been able to make sense. Ibrahim, have I been able to answer your question? Okay, thank you. So please, for those others, the question is not just for the person who asked it. I'm answering is for everybody. I'm answering, and when I'm answering for everybody. So if I'm not making sense, if I've not made sense enough on the question that another person asked, let me know. I will throw more light. All you just need to do is to give me the point where I'm not making more sense, right? I will throw more light on that. So the question is, someone asked the question, but it's for all our knowledge. I want to believe that. So another question from Farouk. I work on this SaaS platform that has no CSS selector at all. How do I automate such platform? Well, so if there's no CSS selector, there should be experts. There will always be a selector for you somehow. But the challenge is now, I like this question. usually what happens is that even the CSS selector and the expert are, so in most cases they are dynamic. What do I mean by dynamic? They change per time. Are you getting me? So these elements change per time. So what I do is that I make my imprint known when I come to company, and these are actually things that make them know that, see, this person I've hired knows what he's doing. She knows what she's doing. You know, yeah. So expert is very lengthy, but not all. So normally, I'm still answering your question though. So normally, what I do is that I go for unique selectors. What do I mean? So I will ask the front end folks to give me a unique selector that is not going to be dynamic. So that when you see this selector, you know that it is exclusively for the testers. So that unique selector, the front end will keep it, drop it there in every element that is clickable for you. When they give you this selector, it's obvious that whatsoever that happens tomorrow, you are not going to be getting a false test. And I don't just bring this up. I put it in a proper documentation and let the management know that there is no CSS or there is CSS in this application, and there are also experts. But these things are dynamic. In fact, funny enough, I don't even work with them. I work with dynamic select. Sorry, I work with unique selectors that are not changing, that are uniquely added there for me. So when I'm clicking it, I know that come what may, it's not going to change tomorrow. So this is what I do. I've worked with international organizations. I do that. I ask them, go give me this. And they did it. They were happy to do it. That's the honest truth. I had to meet with the CTO. I don't just come up to meet him because, this is heavy work. So I will have a meeting with the CTO, give him or her reasons why this has to happen. That this thing is dynamic. And they all know that it's dynamic, it's changeable. So because at the end of the day, I will be having false pause where there's no bug immediately, because the selector I was using before has dynamically changed. I'll be having bug. It will just start failing. And do you know what will happen? Let's assume now I've integrated that into our in our CI/CD pipeline. What that means is that no code is going to go to production because every code will start failing. So I'm having a very false test result, and nobody wants that. So once in QA, I think our key is being able to present our case to the management. It is key in QA, and I do that a lot. As a QA, one thing you should learn as a QA is how to be diplomatic in nature, naturally. It helps because what that means is that you are able to present your case to whoever you want to present it and get a go for it. And what that also means is that once that you have presented is working, everybody will know that you know what you are doing. You will be respected. But if naturally when you bring this up, don't expect that they were going to accept it. That's just the honor. But you will now have to give them reason why it has to work. It has to be this way because you are a professional in this. This is your field. They are not. So I'm telling you that this is what I need. Go and make inquiry. Go and browse it. Check it. These things are dynamic. These selectors are dynamic. I can't work with them. I need unique selectors. So, Farouk, I don't know if I've been able to answer your questions. I do that a lot and that works for me. Thank you. So, second to the last, we have key QA concepts. So, which while I was handling one of the ones above, I think I've handled this. The things you'll be hearing as a QA, you have to be familiarize yourself with them. The test plan, test scenarios, test case, bugs and defects, right? So the test plan it actually comes up, it kind of is a total of everything that you are going to be doing, right? How when it will start, how it's going to be done. Like the first question that I had, where there was no test plan, whatever at all before, and you are coming in, everywhere is just blank. Good. So the test plan actually comes in to give a broader version of everything that you'll be doing. Then when I have test scenarios, test scenario is like, okay, if you are going to log in, the steps, I will log in into this. If I let's assume I want to test on a login flow, the first thing I have to do is to check if the URL is loading as expected, right? So these are your test scenarios. I will check if the username is accepting input, if the password is accepting input, if the password field is hash. These are your different test scenarios. Then you now have test case. Now your test case now is what houses your pass and fail, and then your test scenario, because of course your test case kind of, you have to give in your test scenario in your test case. What do I mean? Inside your test case, you have to give these different scenarios that at this state I will have to log in. I want to carry out a functional testing on login. At this state, the first, maybe let's assume first test scenario is that I will ensure that the page is loading as expected, right? Then I will also make sure that, then next one maybe to make sure that the username is accepting input. So these test scenarios have to be then. Now test case kind of transits the boundary of test scenario. And now inside that test case, you also have to have whether this test now fails or pass. Now, inside the test case, you now have expected result. Are you getting me? And the final result. So this test case kind of comprises of all of these. I'm just explaining all this so that you know their difference. Then the next one is bug. Of course, we all know what bug is. Bug is an error in the code, right? Bug is an issue in the code or defect, whatever you call it. So these are some of the key concepts that you get yourself familiarized with as a QA. Now we now have the last but not the least. We have tools overview. So the tools you are going to get yourself familiarized with as a QA tester, you have to know how to use Jira. It is key. Everybody's moving agile. Yeah, I'm agile inclined. I can use agile. I'm agile inclined and whatsoever. I Jira is one of the agile tools out there that helps you to actually communicate with your team. Get your reports. It's And you can also automate most of your processes in into Jira. Then we have Postman. Postman is for so Jira is actually for team management, right? Team collaboration. I think that's the right word. Jira is for team collaboration. You collaborate with your team. When there's a bug, you know who to tag on your Jira, uh, your Jira board. Then you also have, then next is Postman. Postman is for testing the APIs, right? Like I said earlier, you can do manual testing on Postman and also automation on Postman. You have Google Sheets. For those who have watched the video that I dropped the video. I mean, I had to make that video yesterday because I promised I was going to make before now. So I'll be very, very busy. So, but I just tried yesterday to do that video. For those who have watched it, we saw how to prepare a test case with Google Sheets. So this is a manual process, and you can also use Notion to do that. So as a tester, you have to understand how these things work. Then we have Airtable. So these are all things, and there are so many out there, right, that you can use to prepare your test cases and test plans. Now, for the automation, we have Cypress, we have Playwright, we have Selenium. So then we have, for performance testing, we have cases, we have JMeter, we have Gatling. So these are different tools that you are going to be using as you progress, right? So for those who are beginners, I literally don't want you to be afraid. Am I going to know all of this? The fact is, somehow, yes, but not spontaneous, right? And these things becomes naturally embedded inside you as you grow, as you upskill. That is the fact. So as you are growing, you just see these things. You learn as you are growing and you are learning these things. You just begin to know them. I don't know if I'm making sense. So it's not something that happens spontaneously. So you don't just need to be afraid of it. So I have a question from Ibrahim. Is it okay for a newbie to include Swagger as a tool? Yeah. So I didn't put Swagger. Remember, these are not all the tools, please. These are not all the tools. Swagger also is a tool like Postman that you can use to test your APIs, right? So that is pretty much it. Any further question? Okay. So I think 4 p.m. is good. Yeah. For now, we'll be using 4 p.m. Right. So I want to stop sharing. Okay. So we'll be using 4 p.m. at the moment. And what days of the week is weekend? And I think for now too, we should be using Sundays. Are we okay with that? Give me a thumbs up if you are okay. I know it's not actually going to be perfect for everybody. Personally, it's not perfect for me, but I just have to try and do this. Let's do this together. You know, I'm just here, and like I'm coming here. I'm not coming here to be all knowing. I'm not coming here because I know it all. That's the honest truth, right? I'm not coming here because um my head is full. I just want to impact the little that I have to my community. This is why we are here. It's a community. It's not a class that you are not paying for it. Are you getting my point? It's not a class where, oh, come and learn, come and pay and then learn from my vast knowledge or that. Yes, I know that I have that little knowledge that I can give to you, but as I'm giving it to you, there are still a lot that you know that I don't know. That's the honest truth. Let's learn together, grow together, and go out there and um, do the best, become the best that we can become. I don't know if I'm making sense. So if anybody has any contribution, we're rounding up. We just have 4 minutes. If anybody has any contribution, you can just raise your hand and you can contribute or any question whatsoever. So we'll be rounding up in 4 minutes time.